Hey, what's going on, everybody? Boilon here, and welcome back to another video on Lord of the Rings Home. Today, we had some pretty good information and news coming out that we will be getting Raids Chapter 3 coming out next Tuesday. At least I'm pretty sure that's the date. So depending on when you launch your raids, for me and my guild, we launch on Tuesdays actually. So we started Guild Raid Chapter 1 today, and then we're rolling on to Chapter 2 hopefully tomorrow. And so for that reason, I would probably hold back your raids for next week to make sure that it's actually out. Now, I think as long as, when you would hit Chapter 3 would be past Tuesday, I guess is okay. But for the sake of, not potentially missing out on something, I'm gonna wait until Tuesday afternoon probably to launch my raids next week. But hey, who knows? Anyways, we're gonna talk about all the details and what you're gonna need to know and what kind of characters are actually, a lot of the predictions that I made last week did actually come true, which is nice. So we'll talk about the scoring methods and stuff in this video as well. So if you're ready to go, let's boil this down. So I was a bit surprised, and maybe this is a good thing, honestly, that they are pushing these out a little bit faster than anticipated. I'm pretty sure that we were kind of expecting this to be the end of September, and we're getting it next week on September the 12th, which you can see here for Chapter 3, Blades in the Dark. This may be about 2 weeks ahead of schedule than what I actually thought might have happened, which is good. I mean, I'm concerned a little bit that if there's any, hopefully there's not any bugs with regards to the release. I hope that they've actually tested this, and I hope that they've actually put some thought into this, because it seems like things have been getting better, at least in terms of what they are doing for the player base past Chapter 1. I still think Chapter 1 is a hot piece of garbage mess, and I think it's really bad. But Chapter 2 was a lot better, and I'm hoping that Chapter 3 is also not as bad as Chapter 1. So let's talk about it, though. You are going to need... Now, the wording is bad because it says similar to Chapter 1 and 2. Guilds will need a score total of 17 million in order to progress onto the subsequent chapter. So I don't know if this means that you need to get 17 million in Chapter 3 to get to Chapter 4, because it never actually, before now, there was no statement saying that you need 17 million to go from 2 to 3. But that's why it's just saying similar to Chapter 1 and 2. Like, we already knew this, but we didn't. Anyway, so I'm going to assume this means to get to Chapter 3, you need to score 17 million. We're going to talk about that part because it's a lot harder to score points in Chapter 2 than it is Chapter 1. My own personal experience is that I am scoring typically about 30 to 40% less on Chapter 2 than I am with Chapter 1. That's just because there's less RNG involved. The troll is, after the first major topple, especially on difficulty 3, is almost impossible for me anyways, and so a lot of the points that I do get on the troll tends to be in difficulty 1 and 2 at this point, aside from my top team. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later, though. But let's talk about the Chapter 3 scoring rules. So this is interesting. I honestly did not think that they were going to implement almost everything that I had mentioned, for the most part. So you get 400 points per living ally at the start of every ally's turn. So what this means to me, or suggests to me, is that, okay, say my Strider takes his first turn. It calculates how many allies there are, and it gives points accordingly. Now, if that's not how it's supposed to be, then it's worded poorly. So, at the start of every ally's turn, it could just be that individual ally, but it says per living ally, which suggests it's counting the whole team. So if Strider goes, there's 5 members of the team, that's 2,000 points. The next ally calculates everyone, that's 2,000 points. That's the impression that I'm getting. Otherwise, it shouldn't say per living ally. I think that's where I'm, taking that. Now, you also get 600 points whenever an ally blocks an attack. I was wondering, what part of the scoring method would make Gondor really good? Because obviously they block a lot. So the funny thing about this is I'm almost wondering, is this team going to be better not in a full Gondor team, but with most of the marquee Gondor characters and a really good healer to keep people alive? Because that's something that Gondor, as far as I'm aware, doesn't really have. They don't have healing. None of their characters heal, I don't think. Unless I'm missing something, unless it's in Denethor's kit, but I don't remember reading that in there. So, having a healer to keep them alive longer and thus blocking more, and longer rather, would be a good thing, I would think. So that's something to consider for those of you who might be building Gondor. I am not, though, because I'm not paying for marquee characters, and thus I don't feel it's worth investing into 3-star characters if you're not willing to spend. You do gain 600 points whenever an ally evades an attack, which should be really good for Rivendell elves, probably Rivendell elves specifically, having Arwen, who applies evades as well as part of the passive. Nimbles, of course, that's what you're looking for, which Eladin has a crap ton of this, of the Nimbles, and there's probably other teams that applies good amounts of Nimbles. I'm not Return to Rivendell. I'm almost certain the Hobbits have evades, has Nimbles and stuff as well in their kit, especially with Sam, if I'm not mistaken. I don't, have a textbook memorization of all of the characters' kits though, and that's kind of what comes off the top of my head. Let me know in the comments, maybe Rangers. Let me know in the comments down below how many of these characters actually have Nimble within their kit. I'm thinking mostly elves, specifically Eladin and the Hobbits, I think, is probably the main characters that I use, that I thought of anyways, that do contain Nimbles. I don't think the dwarves do block though, and that would be a good thing, especially with Biffer. I think that you're going to get some blocking going on with the dwarves, so they could be a good team as well for this. So right off the top of my head, teams, and obviously Gondor for blocking, dwarves for blocking as well, evades, elves, and hobbits. There could be some others as well in here. But you also gain 10 points for each health percentage healed on an ally. And so for AoE healing, this could stack up quite a bit. And obviously this is going to go hand in hand with surviving longer. And that's the whole thing. This is a gauntlet. So you want to survive longer because of the first bit here. You want to block and evade more, and you're going to get additional points for that and for healing. So the longer you live, typically, the more points that you're going to get. And I actually really like this because this is exactly what I was hoping was going to happen when I saw it, when the hints came out and things like that. I thought this would be a lot of fun. And so I hope that ends up being the case. And so you're going to want to invest in healer characters. You're going to want to invest in teams that have block chance, obviously, and evade, but having a very strong healer is going to be really important to me, which then makes me wonder whether or not I'm going to need to boost, maybe for some plug-and-play potential as well, my upcoming 7-star Naramiri, my Pippin, characters that I kind of have at a bit of a lower range that I might need to spend some more investment into, maybe Fili and Kili as well, for the healing and duo synergy there. And of course, my elf team should be fine with Elrond. So these are kind of the considerations that I'm doing right now. I'm probably not going to change too much in terms of, my top 5 teams at this point, just because I've already kind of started doing this. But, I'm going to kind of focus, maybe change my focus a little bit, assuming that we can get into Chapter 3. The 17 million point requirement. We're going to talk a little bit more about that once we get finished. Now, the orcs and the enemies that are going to be in this, they're pretty much the exact same as Chapter 1, minus the bomber. They're the exact same enemies, so if you're familiar with this, then you know exactly what their kits are and what they do for the most part, and who to be concerned about. They do still have the tank guy, the Moria War Guard, but in this instance, you don't actually get any points for killing them, so it doesn't really matter that much. We'll talk about how their passive has changed from Chapter 1 to Chapter 3. Now they have a new passive, this one. On spawn, they gain a stack of Unbreakable. Whenever that character attacks your guys on their turn, inflict marked for 3 turns. Basically, if they mark the same character again, it inflicts a stack of captured. And if that captured goes to 10 stacks, I believe they die. That's how it is. I'm pretty sure further down here actually. On death, they just basically respawn essentially when they die. And they gain 1% turn meter for each enemy and each stack captured on all of your guys, basically. New to Mines of Moria, the bonus player effects. So this is the part down here. When an ally kills an orc, cleanse 1 stack of captured on presumably the person who killed them. When an ally gains taunt or provoke, cleanse marked on all allies. Now it doesn't cleanse capture. So just to be clear about that. That being said, I'm not sure if captured is cleansable or not. It might be. which means that cleansing boons or cleansing banes is going to be an important aspect. There's a few characters that I was talking about in my chapter 3 potential video who I thought, like Naramiri, for example, who can cleanse like every other turn if you upgrade the level 2 skill. Purifying Rites at level 5, the stamina's reduced cost down to 2. So very good character because actually grants stamina to other elves. So there might be a variation that you might want to use for Chapter 3 for your elf team or Rivendell team with Elrond that may actually use both, for example, Elrond and Naramiri, just to keep your healing going, keeping your characters alive. This might be something that you might want to see. I don't know if you'll dump Arwen necessarily, because she does have AoE cleansing as well, but you might instead get rid of Lomian. And so you'll be using, and maybe Elro here too. So you might just be using Eladin, Naramiri, Arwen, Elrond, and, well, okay, there's one more, right? So you might as well stick Elro here back in. I don't know if there's any value in him, personally, because he doesn't actually do anything that'll give you points other than killing orcs, which might still be a thing a little bit, but not much, because it will still cleanse a stack, but it's not super important. So this one, yeah, down here, captured. So when they do get 10 or more stacks of captured, they'll die. The fate will receive a fatal blow, aka dead. So you want to live longer, you want to block, you want to evade, you want to heal, and you want to cleanse. All these things, which some of the teams that I'm already using do. So it's really good. We'll see what it is in practice. You know, there's not much long to wait. But I think it'll take a bit of a different spin on the type of characters that you might want to use, potentially invest in. Obviously, it'll be quite different from Chapter 1, which I think focuses more on characters that are fast, characters that assist more. I think that's kind of typically what you're going for in Chapter 1. You want to keep your guys alive a little bit, but what's more important is how fast and how often you're triggering the stacks, and also some AoE damage as well, so that they're at an appropriate hit point level so that they can die from the bomb, right? So that's another thing, because the bomb only does 50%. Either way, I am excited to see this, and hopefully we can get there. The other thing I want to talk about, though, is Chapter 2. I don't know if I can look at it, because I'm currently running Chapter 1, and I think mine's... Oh, yeah, I don't think I can go... I might be able to go back and check. Actually, leaderboards for Chapter 2. If I go to Guild's Best, because I know that it's currently not running. My scores are a lot less than what I would see in Chapter 1. So I'm not going to have a problem necessarily. My top team did 422k. This is my Elf Rivendell mixture hybrid team here that I use, and I was able to topple the troll once and then get him dead, and then that got me about 400,000 or so points. The scrolling is horrendous. I got about 256k with my Haradrim. So those two combined is, what's that, like 680k. So I'm fine for 470k. But not everyone necessarily will be, and I think it'll be a lot harder to get to that 470k per player than it will be on Chapter 1. I think it's a lot easier. For example, I'm scoring about 1.2 million on Chapter 1 individually. You know, take it for what it is. And for Chapter 2, I think I'm sitting at around 800k. So I'm still passing that. I'm just saying that not everyone will. I think that more people will struggle to pass that 470k per player on Chapter 2 than they will on Chapter 1, which I think is a little bit more... It's easier to get in Chapter 1 because you can wiggle that RNG. You can't really wiggle the RNG in Chapter 2. It's basically a DPS check. If you can't topple the troll, if you can't kill him, then you're not strong enough. And so that's what people are going to get roadblocked in for getting into Chapter 3, is that they'll need to basically play more. You know, play longer, upgrade your character, and so not all the guilds are going to get into Chapter 3, just like not all the guilds got into Chapter 2. So even less people are going to be playing on Chapter 3 than players are playing Chapter 2 right now, I guess is what I'm saying. But who knows? We'll see next week. Hopefully our guild can get there, otherwise that'll suck, of course, and hopefully I'll get some videos next week for Chapter 3 as well when we get there. So that's going to be the end of this video, everyone. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Are you prepared for Chapter 3? Are you excited for Chapter 3? Do you think your guild will get there? All of those down below, and until next time, stay safe and healthy, and I'll see you all later. Boilon signing out.